Hello, I'm Divina Lasson, and a very warm welcome to all our viewers and to our guests to the virtual leadership fireside chat series, the Talent Mindset Dialogue. That's what we're going to be discussing today. And of course, the importance is in the evolving world of work. Of course, talent, development, evolution takes center stage. And Economic Times and LinkedIn have joined forces to bring you this very exclusive series of industry dialogues and fireside chats. Here we feature top leaders, the top voices of the country, where we aim to uncover the latest trends, challenges, and of course, opportunities shaping talent management for the future. In fact, tech revolution has, of course, sparked a massive shift in how organizations operate, forcing workplace dynamics, one can say, to transform from a very routine process to innovative reforms. No organization can, of course, ignore the reforms happening today. So, agility, adaptability aren't just buzzwords anymore, they're absolutely the foundation of the modern talent management system. And as organizations move towards a future ready workforce, there's a shift in focus from job roles to skill sets. That's very much what we're going to be deep diving into, as it's no longer just about what title you hold, it's about the skills that you bring to the table. So, in this journey towards a resilient future, it's no longer just talent, is no longer just a resource. It's a conversation starter and a strategic business imperative. Who better to talk us through this incredibly integral topic than our two esteemed guests, George Verghese, Vice President, Group HR and CHRO, Kirloskar Group, and Jyoti Dadlani, Regional Head, West India, LinkedIn Talent Solutions. So, again, very warm welcome to our speakers. Very excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Just a little warm up, I would say, for the main conversation. And Jyoti, now I hand over the floor to you. We have a wonderful set of questions here, really, to get the talent conversation going and to get great insights out of George and yourself. So please, the floor is all yours.
Thanks a ton, and welcome again, George. And maybe I'll start by saying that we're really thrilled to have you. You represent a huge group, century long, with a huge legacy in terms of, I would say, Indian industrial social progress. Obviously, at the front runner of manufacturing, building this nation, huge international presence, and I'm sure the group hasn't grown to this level without the focus on people. Obviously, the growth and the commitment to sustainability, a lot of the technological innovation, all of that is backed by people. So I think as we think about AI and skills and transformation of the workforce, how has talent mindset changed for you as a concept as we think about all of the transformation through the years and the transformation that's happening in the future as well? How has talent mindset really changed for you?
So, if one is to look at the present day and all of the things that is happening around technology and especially artificial intelligence, machine learning, the big change in my lens is till now, whatever systems that existed, whatever computation that existed, everything was to aid a human being to take a decision. And suddenly, for the first time in our evolution, we have a situation where decision making is taken out of humans. And you suddenly have machines who are capable of taking decisions better than human beings. And it's getting refined and getting better every day as we speak. So from a talent standpoint, for me, this is the big difference. Till now, irrespective of what systems are there, we need people. We always needed people who can take great decisions.
Yeah.
And now suddenly, that a lot of it, at least, would get outsourced to what I call as machines. And then, what then becomes important from a talent standpoint is talent who can cut across functions. No longer you need somebody who is an expert in taking a decision in a certain function, because as long as there's enough data and use cases available, it can be replicated by something else. a machine. So you need talent who has the ability to look across functions. You need talent who can understand the softer skills, what we call as soft skills, which is the emotion side of it, the people side of it. You need such kind of talent suddenly. Thirdly, the pace of this change. If you look at the previous cycles, there's the agricultural revolution, suddenly the industrial revolution, and then you have the information technology and now is this. The magnitude and the frequency of change is much, much, much faster than what it was in the past. So you need talent who are very, very adaptable, and who can quickly pick up things. So, from a talent mindset standpoint, uh, what kind of skill you look for generally across grades and across workforce suddenly sees a shift into some of these skills which I just spoke about.
How easy or difficult is it to make this change as a talent leader? I hear you on, finding talent that's future ready, who's more agile, who can deal with complexity and the shifting pace of change. So, how easy or difficult is it? And perhaps maybe an example of how something you've implemented like that, that's kind of gone from vision to reality would be useful.
So first of all, it's not easy. It's also not easy, not just because of the dearth of such talent, but also the pace of change is such that the requirements also keep changing.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of this is also because it is a little ambiguous and is a little uncertain at this point of time
Yeah.
on what exact kind of skills do one need.
Hmm.
Um, I can talk about multiple examples, but again, because this is a very fungible and evolving area, a lot
Yeah.
of this would keep on changing and adapting and
Yeah.
evolving. We used to live in a world where we thought if it is manufacturing, it has to be mechanical engineers, it has to be technical skills that you learn from the college. That's a must. So you typically go for diplomas. You typically go for engineers to work on the shop floor. It's no longer the case. And
Yeah.
it's not just with us as an organization, but generally across, you find graduates, you find um, arts, you find all different kind of educational backgrounds suddenly coming into a core mechanical
Yeah.
function and doing well, because a lot of the things which used to be done by the individual and their technical skill is suddenly done by systems and processes and all of that. So then you suddenly are left with much more options
Yeah.
as an organization to attract a different kind of talent. So on one end, while we may say that this transition is different and it's complex, it opens up avenues, honestly, which never used to exist before. An arts graduate in the shop floor was unthinkable uh, as early as 3 years before. So I think
Mm.
things are um, changing from that respect. I think what's important for organizations to keep figuring out for themselves in their specific environment what does it mean for them. So what it means for us may be very different from a certain organization, let's say working in the IT sector. It could mean
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah, you bring up a very valid point. In fact, we're seeing that a lot on our platform as well. We call it skills first hiring, where the
Yeah.
education experience sometimes doesn't matter, but you focus more on the skills, and it opens up an entire new talent pool that you didn't imagine existed. So great to see that in live
Yeah.
and play at Kirloskar. Uh, it is an ambitious journey, right? Like I'm sure there's technology driven adoption. It's cross industry, and you're also seeing a lot of change within the organization as well as growing at a fast pace as well. I'm sure data is critical, both internally as well as externally, as you think about the cross industry exposure that you have, as well as the growth that you're thinking and driving within the organization. So I think my next question to you is that how are you really leveraging data and insights effectively, both in terms of obviously hiring top talent, but even mapping some of those skills as well as making sure that the group sort of is able to adapt to all of the industries that it's supporting?
Yeah. Um, so I'll try and explain this with a use case. Um, you know, traditionally, like I've said, um, there are certain talent pools that organizations look for when you know, depending on the sector that they're at. Um, and you know and that is traditionally how they attract talent from the colleges or from the market. um, when we did um, our study based on our internal data on who are those employees who's been with us for a critical period of time and has grown and has succeeded well in the organization. Now all of this is data. Growth is okay, where the person start with and what grade is the
Yeah.
person at now, uh, what kind of performance ratings do the person carry over a certain period of time, um, and what levels of attrition, so for that
Yeah.
particular job title. All of this is data. And when you take all of this data and you do things like uh, different, I mean, regression analysis and all kinds of uh, ways to churn out that data, what we realize is there are certain kind of educational skills which we didn't think uh, is what we need, which are actually more successful in our kind of organization. Like for example, in our engineering function, um, MTechs, which is postgraduates in engineering, and
Yeah.
PhDs, whom we take from colleges, seems to be performing much better than the other educational stream, wherein
Hmm.
a bulk of our hiring has been happening in the other education stream. So,
Hmm.
based on this use data, we changed our hiring strategies, our college hiring approach. So that's just an example on
Yeah.
how data can help you figure out what works best for you as an organization.
Hmm.
Um, the key here is, like I've said, just be very clear on what are those use cases that you would want to analyze and evaluate your data, because data, like especially if you're an organization which has been there for such a long time, and basic IT infrastructure, if it is in place, data
Hmm.
is there. The
Yeah.
question is on what are those use cases where you would want to um, look at the data and come out with meaningful outputs.
Yeah.
As you do this, especially in functions like HR, one also need to be very careful on PIIs and personally identifiable information,
Yeah.
and not cross the boundaries of those as you build models,
Yeah.
because there is a very high chance of unconscious bias as what happens with human beings. The machines can also have unconscious biases because
Yeah.
data, because of the way the data is today, might throw up a biased result. So just being very cognizant of that, which is the ethical side of artificial intelligence, is also something that becomes very important. I think it's, as leaders, one needs to be very cognizant of it
Yeah.
as you build out these models.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's the, with so much data being there and models being there, I think it's important to be able to keep that by no stereotyping and no biases there.
Yeah.
How does this change? I know I understand this from the context of, say, you know, one country, but you kind of operate across different countries. So how does this change as you think about different countries, and also in the context of the fact that these skills are changing, right? It's no more the past is predictive of the future. So how do those elements really figure in as you look at data and insights?
So
Just
yeah,
many markets, as well as the fact that it's not predictive in the future. So how does that kind of throw up the way you look at data and insights?
see, it's not just a country-wise phenomenon. If you look at a country as diverse as ours, even within the country, you'll find all of these big variances that happens region to region, and state to state. like I've said, like you mentioned, uh, all of this is also changing rapidly, and I guess
Yeah.
which is why creating the right use cases and the right models, which constantly keeps evolving
Yeah.
with every added information and every added piece of data becomes important. Like the example which I just mentioned earlier may throw a completely different result if you run it for a geography as a US.
Yeah.
And then your strategies and all of that will have to change. Um, so yeah, I mean it is ever changing and ever evolving, and depending on the cuts of data that you're looking at, and I guess that's a job of uh, the leadership to make sure that
Yeah.
some of these are contextually right. There is
Correct.
no point in taking an Indian data and trying to extrapolate it for the United States market if it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So, getting some of these models contextually right, I believe, at the design stage,
Yeah.
becomes the job of the leadership. I mean, it's not an IT team's job. It's not a programmer's job. It is the leadership's prerogative to get that right.
Yeah. Especially so in the context of AI, right? Because I think it's
Yeah.
as you continue to obviously see jobs get, augmented, supplemented, I think it's going to be that much more important to have context because you're right,
Yeah.
models can
Yeah.
run different analysis, but the context of what matters is going to be critical from a future
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I know, I mean, very similar to what you said, we are also seeing on LinkedIn data that, agility and human skills, of course, are the most in-demand skills of 2024 because you want workforce to be more future ready as skills change, as jobs continue to get augmented. uh, we are seeing that those will remain an important element of the workforce as we go ahead through the next decade. Uh, and I'm sure from your business perspective, you're also venturing into newer businesses. So I'm curious to kind of understand how are you sort of distinguishing yourself, in a competitive talent landscape. I'm sure that like you've done, you use data and insights. A lot of companies are, and as skills are changing, jobs are changing, I'm sure the competition also gets fierce. So how are you kind of differentiating yourself in the context of this competitive talent landscape?
Some of these things may sound extremely simplistic, but I do believe that uh, becoming more and more real as an organization, I believe, is what today's audience expects. I mean, today's workforce also expects that. Um, Gone are the days where, like I've said earlier, I mean, you can have slides on the great culture and values that the organization have, and get away with just that. Um, if you can have experiences which clearly shows out who you are as an organization through its varied talent pools, I guess those are the kind of things that works well. I mean, everyone is fighting for the same great talent.
Yeah.
Everyone needs that. Uh, I also do think that gone are the days where people make career decisions for just money. I think
Yeah.
those days are over. There has to be a larger purpose for the organization, and organizations have to get real with their purpose.
Yeah.
You cannot have something said and something else done. And it's quick to figure that out. And today there is no barrier to entry or exit from a job. If I come into a certain organization, I was told something, I don't like it, what I see is very different from what I'm told, I just leave and I have the next opportunity and the next opportunity. Great talent will always find that. So in a world where such barriers doesn't exist between entry and exit,
Mhm.
organizations has to get more real. And for organizations to get more real, they need to find their story. They need to find their story. They need to find their purpose, and then create programs and experiences which lives out that story and and that purpose to its target workforce. It's
Yeah.
a very tricky one. It may sound
Yeah.
complex, but at the end of the day, it is about becoming real and
Mhm.
authentic
Yeah.
as an organization.
No, actually, I think you've simplified it well. Walking the talk. I think there's no better way to kind of put it there when walking the talk. And that's it might be a short term strategy, but from a long term perspective, as you said, it's not about attraction, it's also about retention. So, walking
Yeah,
the talk and the lived experience part of it and the authenticity, most definitely, I think resonates, especially with 25% of the workforce by the end of 2025 being Gen Z who connect with the purpose. So, I think
yeah,
for them, it's extremely important. Um, how are you thinking about some of this? So you said, right, like the best employee value proposition is to kind of authenticity. So how are you thinking about sort of elevating this on different platforms and maybe even to some extent measuring its impact?
yeah. Uh, Again, I do believe that what comes in platforms should be more an output than the reason. Um, you know, like I've said, the reason is or the underlying theme is building out the right story, making sure
Yeah,
that you live that story, making sure that you create enough experiences through different programs, whether it is
yeah,
through campuses, whether it's through potential workforce, whether it's through platforms like yours, or even this interaction where I'm trying to articulate how important it is for us uh, to have a real story and how we try as an organization to be real.
yeah,
um, I guess then comes an output of all of that is how you position all of that into the social media or the world at large. And again, in today's connected world, um, everybody talks to each other, everybody knows each other, at least virtually.
yeah,
So there is no way by which someone can get away with a story without it being spoken in the large online space.
yeah,
If the story is bad, you will get trolled for it. If the story is right and authentic, it will be spoken at a much more magnified scale as such. So I guess um, putting it out there is more a case of uh, just using the platforms, and these are vanilla platforms available. Uh,
yeah,
in articulating what you've done well to a larger audience is all that it is all about. I don't think organizations should worry too much about um, what to put in social media for the sake of it, but they should worry about what they actually do, and the
yeah.
rest is a logical extension of it.
But how important is that to use some of that to create that awareness? You're
It's
right. I
extremely
mean,
important. Yeah, it's extremely important. There's no question about it,
mhm,
because I do think that a lot of decision making for potential employees or potential talent who want to work with you is done through these platforms. So
mhm,
I guess uh, having it out there is very important. So
yeah.
it's extremely critical that your value proposition is out there in its real and earnest form.
Perfect. I think you summarized it well. Roll it honest form, but also make sure that it's available because decision making is happening on different platforms. Thank you for sharing that. Um, I think my next one's going to be that we've spoken about, LinkedIn data shows 70% of skills needed, for a job will change by 2030 because of AI, and skill development is becoming increasingly important. We are starting to see organizations actually thinking of, consciously investing in development of their employees while also keeping the learner and keeping the fact that one size doesn't fit all from an upskilling perspective. So as you think about these changing skills and your existing workforce as well as the impact of AI, how are you actively building these future skills and designing career paths for your workforce?
Yeah, you know, uh, in most of these things, I guess a lot of this democratization is happening. Like um, I guess gone are the days where careers were linear. It's no longer linear. I mean, people feel that they should be given the opportunity to move from a function like, let's say, HR to finance, and then from there to do something on the shop floor, and then come back to HR. All of these non-linear career paths are becoming more and more normal now. And So it is more a case of the freedom to choose which stream do I want to take, and whether the organization facilitates it.
Mm.
The same with learning.
Yeah.
You may go and ask a college hire who has just started his career on the shop floor. The typical way of looking at charting out his career path is to say that, okay, person A started at shop floor at X. Now he'll manage 10 people as a supervisor in the same shop floor. Then he will become a manager managing 20 supervisors and grow up. That's a traditional way of looking at it, and you design your career pathing and your learning development needs based on that, because that's how the organization thinks about that talent.
Mm.
uh, from there, today it is more about the talent saying, hey, I started the shop floor, I want to be a salesperson next. I would not want to have 20 people reporting to me as my next career step. I just want to learn how to do sales.
Yeah.
And then he may come back and say, now get me back into the IT team, I want to do programming. So these and that's one engineer. The next engineer in the same shop floor may say, oh, I want to move into finance, I want to do something
Yeah.
else. So um, how can you have processes and systems designed in such a way that you facilitate for these movements?
Mm.
And how can you allow employees to have career pathing and development plans, which is very, very customizable for them, in line with their career needs and learning needs? I
Mm.
think tech platforms of today allows us to do exactly that.
Yeah.
For example, even LinkedIn allows us to do that. It
Yeah.
allows you for a customized learning journey
Yeah.
based on the skills that you uh, want to develop. I
Mm.
guess it is moving more in that direction where, like I've said, it's become more democratic. It is
Yeah.
left to the employee to decide. The benevolence approach of organizations saying that, oh, I am giving you this, and hence I'm a benevolent organization. I think we're slowly, and we're fastly moving away from it. Um, and it's more about um, just the ability to do things the way I want it,
Yeah.
as an employee, and whether the organization caters to that.
Yeah.
I think that's a way, at least in our organization, we are looking at some of these conversations, whether it is a career conversation, whether it is a learning conversation. For example, every organization has succession planning.
Yeah.
uh, Now, succession planning traditionally used to be, oh, here is this employee, and here is what the organization believes that this employee wants to go.
Yeah.
From there to a more two-way conversation to say that, hey, we think you can do this, but what do you think? And then arriving at something which works for both parties. I think a lot of these changes are very real and it's happening as we speak.
Yeah.
And I guess organizations have no choice but to cater to some of these real demands.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that at LinkedIn data as well, right? That career growth and advancement remains top of mind for people, sometimes even more than compensation. In fact, a lot of Gen Z, almost 42% of them make decisions based on the career growth and advancement that you spoke about. Uh, how do you see AI playing a part? Like, as you said, right, it's about the processes and systems and, allowing employees to develop their own career paths. How do you see AI accelerating this or changing this or making it easier for you to do this?
I think systems in general, that now that includes AI as well,
Yeah.
especially can play a big part in the talent development part of it,
Hmm.
which is to say that, okay, here is a person X. He has certain skills, certain things that he's not doing well. Probably do a couple of uh, use cases and tests to figure out where the person stands now, based on the multiple, amount of data that is already available on such
Yeah.
talent. It can clearly tell you. It can clearly tell you what are the areas that one needs to work on. It can clearly tell you probably certain career streams that may work best.
Yeah.
And all of this is very easily doable because there is so much of data available on a on many people who made these career moves and journeys in the
Yeah.
past. So the availability of so much of data, I think a lot of that decision making for the individual and a
Hmm.
lot of decision making for the organization. Like I've said, AI is all about uh, decisions which is going out of the human mind to systems. So a lot of these decisions, whether it is a career decision, whether it is an organization succession decision, or whether it is a learning decision, um, can be augmented or supported by
Hmm.
good AI systems and platforms. That's the way I look at it. And I guess this will need some time to get it to the level that you would like it to, because you need to have enough data around it. Um, and I guess it will take its time to build those use cases up with the right set of data.
Yeah, you almost spoke a lot about what we are seeing into play at LinkedIn, right? Just customized experiences, simplifying it for the learner. And I think
Yeah.
one more thing to add is about how can every employee have a coach. So
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
it becomes a little difficult to make sure you can adhere to everybody from an upskilling, reskilling perspective as well as a career perspective. But how can you open that up and have something that's like a coach for all at their fingertips? I think that's
Yes.
would be the
Yes.
more critical one, that they see that, or they can query and work, and AI can simplify access to their information when they need it the most. I think that's the most critical one. And more of
So
what you said is so much of what we do at LinkedIn. So it's great to see that happening live gives us a little bit more confidence on the way things are progressing. So thank you for sharing that. Do you see a difference in you know the way different generations adapt to this kind of learning or technologies, uh, as well as are there things that you keep in mind as you think about, say, learning and development, on what different generations want, and sort of then customize the way different generations would like to learn? So how are you seeing the impact of generations coming into play as you think of your learning and development?
I guess from the space of learning and development, I guess there are a lot of changes. Of course,
Yeah.
um, come from a traditional setup where training means time off work and you go to a classroom and spend 8 hours there, to a time where it is more about, okay, e-learning content, and um, you have to go through certain courses, whether you like
Yeah.
it or not, uh, to a space where there's a lot of gamification happening to make sure that the audience is fully engaged while learning happens, to also this trend of bite-sized learning. I mean, so uh, nobody wants to spend now 2 hours uh, on a course. I mean, can
Yeah.
can there be a 2-minute version of it, or a 5-minute version of it, or can I have hundreds of 5-minute versions of different programs which I can learn at my own pace and convenience, because I don't have neither the time nor the patience to, let's just sit for 1 hour. Um, so I guess it changes, and it is
Yeah.
changing. And with every passing generation that is entering the workforce, I think
Yeah.
the requirements and the demands are very different. And I guess
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, that's how it has been all the while. I mean, we are no longer different, or the next generation is also no longer different. Their
Yeah.
needs and requirements would be different from the previous ones, and that's fine. I mean, the question is, can we have platforms which cater to these multiple generations in the workforce? Can you have, for example, if you have e-learning contents, can there be both a bite-sized version of it? Can there also be a full-fledged version of it? Can there be a
Yeah.
desktop version of it? Can there also be a laptop version,
An
or
app
a
version.
mobile
Yeah.
version of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, an app version of it. So
Yeah.
I guess it boils down to these platform agnostic solutions, which
Yeah.
works for all different categories and the different needs that's available.
Hmm. Well, that's really helpful. The pace, the convenience, just the blended form of learning of what kind of unlocks and supports different people's learning needs. I think that's going to be the most critical. Um, what's your message to the audience? As Of course, we've got a large platform. We've got 1 billion members, the fastest growing professional network. I'm sure the listeners want to kind of hear from a leader like yourself. There are lots of aspiring professionals. They would want to hear from a leader like yourself. So, what's your advice to our audience as they think about kind of getting successful in their careers, or even looking to careers in the engineering sector, or even sort of wanting to be leaders of tomorrow like yourself? So, what's your message to them?
Um, I would say a couple of things. I think the first one is like I've said. I mean, we are living in a world where the lines are very blurred. There's nothing like a proper only HR person or a proper only finance person or a proper marketing person. I think careers will be cutting across functions. So I guess focusing on an overall business acumen rather than saying, look, I don't understand computers because I'm in HR, or I don't understand HR because I'm in sales. I don't think is no longer going to work. So the ability to develop an overall business acumen, I think would be very helpful, irrespective of what function you are, how many years of experience one has. I think that becomes extremely critical. Second is working on this concept called learning agility, which is the ability and willingness. I think more than an ability, it's a willingness to learn newer and newer things, which puts you in very uncomfortable situations, because every time you're learning something new, you are going to look like a novice. You're going to be uncomfortable, but that has to be a constant theme of one's career as you go along. So there's ability to constantly learn, and the willingness and attitude rather to constantly learn. And I guess the third one is as I started with being resilient through times, because there will be good days and bad days. There'll be good times and bad times, but being resilient through it all, and to see things through, the willingness to keep at it. I guess these are some of the skills, at least in my case, that has worked for me. I don't know whether it'll work for someone else. Again, because contexts are different, journeys are different. But I'm just sharing some of the things which I believe has worked for me, and I hope that it would work for others listening to this segment as well.
Thank you for sharing and simplifying it as usual. Business acumen for sure. Definitely a takeaway, learning agility. Be uncomfortable more often. Definitely use AI if you haven't. And of course, being resilience, keeping at it. Simple yet really sometimes not so obvious advice. So thank you so much for sharing that, George. With that, I'm going to hand over to Devi now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jyoti, and thank you, George, for all those insights. Really wonderful. Resonates so much with your point on resilience. There's such a big learning point. As Jyoti said, so simple, yet something to constantly remind oneself to keep that in mind, especially in face of the changing times we live in. Thank you so much for such an insightful conversation today. And as we wrap up, it's really clear that the future of work is evolving so rapidly. Talent is going to continue to be the driving force behind all organizations and their success. So, for all our viewers, we hope that these discussions have sparked new ideas, new action strategies, and they're going to help to guide, build a future-ready workforce. Do stay tuned for more in-depth conversations on the Talent Management Dialogue series as we continue to navigate the ever-changing talent landscape. Thank you so much to the viewers and our wonderful esteemed speakers today. It's been a pleasure.